Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit. Hi everyone, I'm Farinho and welcome back to Farinho Talks Milan. I'm sure a lot of us were looking forward to this derby. It was the biggest derby in the space of a decade. Of course, Inter have had the upper hand for the most part. And after the first derby where Milan won 2-1, you thought, hey, we have a chance at coming away with a victory. Unfortunately, today didn't go as planned. And I know a lot of us are upset, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Anyway, here are 6 things we learned from Milan's 3-0 defeat to Inter. Number 1, Milan concede early and invite pressure. In big games, the worst way to start is by going down early. And unfortunately for Milan, within the first 5 minutes, Inter were already 1-up. Milan were always going to be susceptible to conceding goals. Today was no different. Milan didn't establish themselves in the game. They weren't moving the ball around. They did stabilize well around the 20-minute mark, but you already put yourself on the back foot by being so sloppy. I think part of the issue was confidence. The guys played with confidence once they got back into the game, but right off the bat, Inter were looking a lot more precise, and they really caught everyone off guard. Number 2, Kjaer and Roman horror show. When I saw the lineup, I was a bit skeptical, and a lot of people were as well when Pioli left Tomori out of the squad. Of course, Kjaer has just come back from injury. He is still unfit. And Romagnoli hasn't been on the best form, and I think that's an understatement. He's been poor. And a lot of us were frustrated when we saw the lineup, and specifically against players like Lukaku and Lautaro. They're quick, aggressive, they are direct. Lukaku in particular is very strong on the ball. And it was more of the same. It's the same pattern where Romagnoli gets bullied by bigger strikers. And it usually took an on-form Kjaer to stabilize the defense, but that wasn't the case today. I think Tomori should have started. He was on the best form. And you could blame the 3 goals on the 2 centre-backs. For the first one, Romagnoli was muscled out of the way by Lukaku, and Kjaer had to go and recover. And he did get a block in, but unfortunately, he didn't position himself to defend the cross that came back into the box for the Lautaro header. On the second goal, it was a breakaway goal. And again, Kjaer didn't follow Lautaro. It was a scramble. And the third goal in particular, Romagnoli was very poor. A player who is, Milan's captain, he's a senior in the squad, should be doing better in that scenario. You shouldn't be allowing Lukaku to get a shot off from there. Mind you, it was a great strike from Lukaku. Credit goes to him for finishing. But it was just a poor defensive showing overall. I do think in phases of the game, they were both commanding. They won aerial duels. But at critical times, you could see they were lacking. Number 3, nothing comes off for Milan. During their most dominant phase of the game, they did create a few chances. Most notably was Hakan's corner and Zlatan forced a save from Handanovic. But for all the possession that Milan had, they just didn't create a lot of clear-cut chances. In comparison to Inter, who I don't think created a lot of chances, but they took the bulk of it. And they ran out 3-0 winners. Milan were in good space. The players had opportunities to really hurt the Inter defense, particularly in the first phase where Milan hit the ball into the box and left the Inter defenders scrambling a little bit. And you should notice things like that when you play. They came out with more of that in the second half. But again, it was far from clinical. It was far from the usual game. It was more hit and hope. And it was really disappointing because you expect more from your creative players, Hakan, Rebic, Salamakers to a lesser extent, but they just failed to really carve out any clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. Inter were defending deep, and they made it really difficult for Milan to string together incisive passes. And they relied a lot of the times on shooting from outside the box and just hitting and hoping. It's disappointing to walk away goalless. Number 4, Handanovic gives Inter the upper hand. It was arguably Milan's best spell of the game. They started the second half well. They didn't give Inter any breathing room, and Handanovic pulled off a spectacular series of saves, twice on Zlatan from the header, and one from Tonali's shot from just inside the box. I think had those gone in with the way Milan approached the second half and the confidence I think they carried for much of the second half, I think they could have gone on to go and score more goals. But again, if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. So it just comes down to small details like that. And Handanovic wearing the captain's armband performed like a captain today. And you need that. You need your senior players to really step up in a game of this magnitude. And in doing so, he allowed into the platform to go and attack. You feel confident that your defense can handle anything Milan throw at them. I don't know how he pulled out that save. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. I mean, we've known that for years now. And it just allows you to build from that. Inter took their chances. They were clinical in front of goal, and it was a deserved win in the end for Inter. Number 5, Milan show fighting spirit. Unpopular opinion, I do think today's performance was a lot better in terms of mentality than that which we've seen in the Spezia game, in the Atalanta game. And it's the first time that in recent memory that I've seen this team not give up once they went behind. They went 1, 2, 3 goals behind, and they still kept on pushing. They still tried to make something happen, even if it was a bit sloppy, even if it was a bit hit and hope, even if it didn't materialize. It's a really big thing for me when you see this type of reaction despite all of the adversity. They played with pride, and I do think that needs to be acknowledged. The result is far from ideal. I think a lot of players need to step up, a lot of starters really need to show up to the party. Romagnoli, Hakan, they've been on poor runs of form. It was admirable to watch them until the last minute try and make something happen, from corner kicks, from crosses out wide, just constantly moving the ball, constantly trying to close the Inter players down, even though the tie was lost when Lukaku scored the third goal. It was just refreshing, and I think that's the only positive thing we can take away from this result. Number 6, what does this mean for the Scudetto race? This is the type of result that could really dent title hopes, and it hurts even more because it's your local derby and your fiercest rivals who have now overtaken you after being second for so long, right? But the thing is, the objective was never the Scudetto in the first place. I'll always say that, and I've said that even whilst Milan were, seemingly invincible. Their objective is Champions League football. You have to walk before you can run. Whilst it is a really horrible result for fans who were really pumped for this game, I don't think it's a horrible result in terms of the bigger picture. But they really need to perform better. They need to find their form, and I hope they do so sooner rather than later. Another tough match is coming up against Roma. They have moved to 5 points behind Milan, and them, along with Atalanta and Juventus, pose a real threat for Champions League qualification. I do think the results will turn around. Every team is going to go through a patch of bad form, particularly this Milan team who have been punching above their weight for the most part of last year. And they've turned it around. They have looked good in games. They've also looked shaky in games where obviously the quality of the Milan players could overwhelm the opposition. But against top class opposition, Milan are exposed. In terms of the race for the title, Milan are only 4 points behind Inter. If you had to ask any one of us at the start of the season, would you be happy being in second place behind Inter by just 4 points, having only played 23 games? I can guarantee you that 99% of us would be more than pleased with that. It's getting to a critical stage of the season where you have to approach each game like a final. And it's a cliche, but there's a lot of truth to that. It's 4 points. Inter lose twice, it's not inconceivable. It's happened before. Yes, they're in good form. Milan were in good form. They've also lost a few games. And I will reiterate that if Milan don't win the Scudetto, it's far from a failure. They not only took steps forward, but they took strides forward. And that needs to be celebrated. Yes, it will leave a bitter taste in our mouths as fans, having seen this team first for so long, but they worked hard, and this achievement after nearly a decade in obscurity needs to be celebrated and, in the very least, acknowledged. Now for the player ratings. Donnarumma gets a 6.5. He made a few good saves in the match, and the standout was keeping Milan in the game when Lukaku was 1v1. Romagnoli gets a 6. His performances are going from bad to worse. Simon Kjaer gets a 6 as well. Also looks shaky. That's just due to his fitness. I think the pair of them will bounce back, but Pioli has to make a tough decision whether or not to let Tomori start. Theo Hernandez gets a 6.5. He nearly scored in the first half. Davide Calabria gets a 6.5. It was a decent performance coming back into the starting lineup. Tonali gets a 7. He had an average first half, but in the second half he was very good, particularly going forward with the complexion of the game and Milan receiving the bulk of the possession. Rebic gets a 6. I don't know why he was kept on the field for that long. Hakan Çalhanoğlu gets a 6. It's been a string of bad performances, and for someone who's demanding a bigger contract, you'd think they'd be playing out of their socks, but it's just not working. This year he's been really poor. Salamakis gets a 6. He was missing the entire first half. In the second half, it was much improved, but again, like Calabria, the right-hand side lacked any thrust, any cutting edge. Nothing really came from that side. Zlatan gets a 6.5, by far the most likely player to get on the score sheet. He was denied by 2 incredible saves from Handanovic. On another day, he puts those away. It was a decent performance. Leao gets a 6. He was brought on too late. By then, the writing was on the wall. Meite gets a 6. It was an average performance. Castillejo gets a 6. Despite his trying, it just wasn't working. Now for the coach. Pioli gets a 5 out of 10. I think his match selection, I don't understand, again, why he would go with Kjaer. Lautaro and Lukaku were in fine form. Inter were in fine form. And the last thing you want is to bring a player back into a starting lineup in such a big game when they aren't fit. Kjaer clearly wasn't fit. He was struggling with the pace of the game. He did put in a few blocks, but pairing him with Romagnoli, who is also in poor form, really exposes the both of them. You can place some of the blame on the players, but there is an element of blame on Pioli for this as well. I think starting Leao would have been a much better idea than starting Rebic. Rebic, of course, didn't do anything, and Leao couldn't do anything because by the time he brought him on, it was far too late. His substitutions were baffling. To me, it looks like he conceded defeat early on when he took Tonali off and then later took Zlatan off. I think he wants to conserve the energy for the Red Star game and the Roma game coming up. Frankly, I don't blame him, but is that really the mentality we can come to expect from a manager who is fighting for Champions League qualification, and a lot of people have raised the question, is he the guy to take Milan forward? Now, I don't know for sure. It obviously depends on how the season plays out, but he's walking a tightrope now. And I think not particularly because of the Derby defeat, but just the poor results in recent weeks, the decision making in recent weeks. It's not a good look for him. It's a bit of a pattern with Pioli when the team are under pressure against bigger teams. Um, he always comes off second best, and he's not a world-class coach, and no one expects that of him. But he has to do better. He has to do better, whether it's tweaking the current formation, whether it's relying on certain personnel to do a different job. It's just more of the same. And Milan become predictable like that. It makes it easy for teams to figure out where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. And if you can shut down Milan's strengths, play a high pressing game, you play with two strikers, you put Milan under pressure, you ask them to break down tight defenses, particularly world class defenses. It's difficult. And Pioli hasn't done anything to adjust it. He kept on playing the same way. And again, it overwhelms smaller oppositions, but he gets shown against top class opposition. The environment at Milan now is going to test character of a lot of players. You can't afford to drop your head, not at this stage of the season. And Pioli needs to ensure that Milan get the results needed in order to secure Champions League qualification. That is priority number one, and anything else is a bonus. I don't know what else to say. It's been a really disappointing start to the year, and I'm looking forward to watching a Milan game where they actually play well and get the results and really turn their form around. I don't think they played badly today. They were hit on the break for the second and third goals, and it was unfortunate. They still looked like they could score a goal. They still looked like they were willing to fight for the result, and it's a step in the right direction. I do think they'll beat Roma. I think they'll beat Roma comfortably. There's a lot of winners in that team, and they've shown they can be reliable. Of course, everyone goes through bad form. It's part of the game, but they will bounce back. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter, Farinho_10, or you can follow Farinho Talks Milan. It's just at Farinho Talks. I'll be making more miscellaneous content, more random content. I'll be showcasing some of the designs I do on this channel. Don't hesitate to give me feedback. Please give me suggestions, interact, and I appreciate your support. Lastly, Forza Milan.